Today we're taking a look at the American Model 1917 Enfield. So this rifle has a very interesting story about how it came into American service. And you'll know that the Enfield, or the small magazine Lee Enfield, was a very famous rifle for the British. So what is an Enfield doing with the Americans? Well, we're going to have to go into a little bit of a story to figure that out. We're going to start our story with that previously mentioned small magazine Lee Enfield, or SMLE rifle. This is a rifle that the British Empire had been using for some time. And as usually is typical with these sort of things, there was some particular war where they discovered that it was starting to become a bit obsolete, and that would have been during the Boer Wars. That gets a bit complicated what all was going on down there in Africa, but they were basically going up against guys with Mausers, and the Mausers with the Mauser action and the more modern rounds in it were really a very substantially better rifle than what they had with the SMLE. And so the British decided that they wanted to start pursuing a new rifle. This was kind of in the 1910s there that they started really getting going with it. What they wanted to do was to make a new rifle that was kind of based off of the Mauser and had a lot of Mauser influence on it. Now the Americans kind of did the same thing when they had the Krag-Jorgensen that they were using, that they took into the Spanish-American War. They saw that the Spanish Mausers were really superior to the Krag-Jorgensen, and they wanted to make an American rifle that was more like a Mauser. Now the British and the Americans went two different ways into doing this. The Americans decided to just start from scratch and make their own rifle that was based off of the Mauser, and came up with the model 1903. The British, when deciding to do this a few years later, instead of starting from scratch, they took a lot of things that they liked from the SMLE, that they liked from the Enfield, and basically turned an Enfield into a Mauser. But they started working on that. They wanted to replace the rifle. They wanted to replace the round that it was shooting. And so they came up with a series of things that eventually ended up getting to the Pattern 13 rifle. The Pattern 13 rifle is something that looks very similar to this rifle here. The big difference being that it was designed in the new 276 Enfield cartridge. Now this was to be their new smokeless powder round that they were going to use. So they were trying to do that, and they were seeing that they were having a lot of problems with that 276 round, that it was really not performing well. It had a lot of excessive recoil, and they ended up just abandoning that, and oddly kind of went back to the British 303 round, which they noticed when loaded with smokeless powder and Spitzer rounds actually performed pretty well, even though it was a rimmed cartridge instead of a rimless cartridge. They decided to try to keep working around that, and so they took the Pattern 13, modified it to be able to accept the new 303 round, and they came up with the Pattern 14. And for this Pattern 14, they started looking at it and they started liking it. It was doing pretty well. So they looked to find some places to manufacture it. British manufacturing was pretty much maxed out, so they were able to go to the Americans and get some made there, with Winchester, Remington, and Eddystone all working to produce Pattern 14s. So they were making those, and you would think that the Pattern 14 would have become the standard British issue rifle at this point. Except something happened. War were declared. But it's not like Othias has like a trademark on that. I mean, I can use it too, right? I think. But anyway, yeah, World War I erupts. Britain gets dragged into this thing. Well, I mean, they don't get dragged into it. They kind of are right there at the beginning of it getting involved. But anyway, once that happens, they decide, no, we are not switching over to this new rifle right as we get into a big war. So they kind of had the American manufacturers go through and finish up what they were working on there, kind of finish up what was in the middle of production, but not make any more. And the British got out of that and just kind of doubled down on the Lee Enfield rifle and just used a few pattern 14s here and there. So how does that get to this American version here? Well, something happened. And that thing that happened was war were declared. Yeah, okay, I'm going to just use this a bunch if I can use it. If you're going to use someone else's phrase, I mean, just kind of keep using it. Yeah, well, in this case, it was the Americans got into the war, into the same war, World War I. Well, at this point, what are they going to do? Because they're saying that they don't have enough 1903s, which was the standard issue rifle, to be able to pass around. They don't have enough to get out there to go into this big conflict. And they started talking to their manufacturers about what to do. And they realized that there were three manufacturers, Winchester, Remington, and Eddystone, who were tooled up to produce this British rifle that Britain had just stopped. And that rifle was in British 303, which isn't going to be that far off of 30-06, that design could be the pattern 14 changed into something that could fire 30-06. And that is what leads us to the model 1917. And that timing actually really worked out for Remington and Winchester because they were able to not have a whole lot of downtime with that. The British kind of stopped production. The Americans get right into production. They take a small amount of time to change it over to 30-06, changing the bolt face and the chamber, the stripper clip guide there, and also taking the volley sights off the side of it and making a few other minor modifications and mainly changing the markings. But otherwise, they really pretty much are the same rifle, more or less the same rifle, just in different chamberings. And the Americans used this rifle through World War I, where they kind of were put into storage until, once again, you know where this is coming, war were declared. World War II breaks out. They pull some of these out for training and stuff. And that was really the last time that they were used for the Americans. You'll see them through the Korean War, given as kind of aid to other countries to give them some arms. And then they started making their ways out onto the surplus market. Also, some of them going out to veterans organizations. Some of them staying in military for ceremonial use. That's pretty much what was going on with it. So let's go ahead and zoom in on the rifle here and take a look at some of the features of it here and show you some of the Mauser influences and some of the Enfield influences. So see, right now we start with it decocked here. As we put the bolt forward, we'll see right here this last little bit of it here, because it kind of wants to stop there, but you've got the additional movement right there, which is where it cocks the rifle. And so you've got that right there, which now has it cocked. If you bring it up, it doesn't take a lot of force to bring it up here. And so that'll pretty much just pop itself open there, so it doesn't take a whole lot. If this doesn't want to push forward here, it's because you're empty. You'll need to push down the follower, bring that forward. The cock on close there is definitely an Enfield trait there. But as we take a look at the bolt here, as we can see, it comes out very much like a Mauser here. We've got that big long Mauser extractor groove there. This all here very much looks Mauser. This whole thing looks very Mauser-like here. We've got this turned handle here, which is a little bit different. That's more of an Enfield type thing there. The sights on this include a battle sight here, which is sighted in at like 400 yards, which is a ways out there. The flip up goes to this here, which will give you different markings at different spots there. Kind of your evens on the left and your odds on the right. You've got marks on both sides of this to show you where that would be, and that will let you kind of move that up and down. The safety on this is definitely an Enfield type safety, and this is going to be one thing that's going to be very different. One thing you're used to seeing from the Mausers is that Mauser flag that's up here, the safety that turns. This is going to be the Mauser style safety. This right here, forward is fire. All the way back is safe, which not only kills the trigger there, but also locks the bolt in place where it cannot move. This is right off of an Enfield right here. A lot of people like these because as you have your hand in the firing position there, you've got your thumb right there to be able to put this thing in and out of safe there. And you'll notice I had a little bit of trouble bringing that back. It's because it can't go back to safe unless that's all the way down, because it has to lock it into place there. Does have a really nice kind of little two-stage trigger there that goes back to there, and then the brake will be sometime after that there. Not a whole lot of force needed to do that there. I don't want to dry fire this a whole lot, but I'll do it once here for video. The profile in this is very well known for having the big bulge down here, as well as these very pronounced sights here on the receiver. You also have the blades here that protect the sights up front. And once again, this is something else very much stolen right off of an Enfield, but it's really more just the way that the bolt engages, the extractor groove, and the way the stripper clip guide works that is really a very Mauser influence. Once again, we'll go ahead and we'll show you how this works here, and I'm actually not going to load these in here because there's a way to get these out without loading them. You can see it has kind of an awkward angle, and I was able to do that without a whole lot of trouble. To get these out without engaging them into the chamber, you don't have to push it in all the way. You can kind of just do a short stroke on it here, and it'll bring them out that way, which is kind of awesome. Of course, this came chambered for 30-06 on stripper clips. It did have the stripper clip guide to allow them to be able to load it in there easily. One interesting thing is that because of the change from the rimmed 303 cartridge to the rimless 30-06, they were able to get 5 rounds in there in that. They didn't want to go and start changing a whole lot of the geometry on this here because that would take a lot of time. They just kept it the same. So it actually fits 6 rounds in there, although it only came with 5 on the stripper clips because these were the stripper clips that were used for the 1903, and military wanted to use the same logistics and supply chain for ammunition on both rifles. And of course here you're seeing it with the M1907 sling, this leather sling, which is one of the most complicated things to put on a rifle. I'm still not sure that I did it right. Of course, this is fitted for a bayonet. They did not want to spend a whole lot of time changing that, so the bayonets that come for this are not going to be the same ones that fit the 1903. This is going to be the model 1917 bayonet, since it was adopted at the same time. Interestingly, that bayonet also fits the trench gun that was used during World War I, and a lot of people associated with that. And since those trench guns are like really stupid, popular, and famous and expensive, the bayonets for these have kind of started going up in price and are a lot more expensive than a lot of the other bayonets. They're also like really long. This is known for having a really smooth action. As we talked about earlier, this is a cock-on close rifle, which does make it really smooth to open and close it. It was felt by the British that the cock-on close was something that they really wanted, that as this heated up, it would be able to keep closing easily. That a cock-on open is going to be much more hard to work as it gets harder. But the Americans, with the more kind of like low number of shot, kind of marksmanship mentality, really kind of preferred the cock-on open, and so that was not always the most popular feature with the American servicemen, although I think it does make it much more smooth. And we could take a look here of some video of shooting it here. I wasn't able to get it out to a really long range because I haven't found another range to replace where I shot at previously, so we're only going to do this out to 100 yards. You can see the stripper clips in this load very easily, a lot easier than they load into my Hugo Mauser. I'm using Swedish Mauser clips, which are interesting. I was told back when I had the 1903 that those would be the best performing clips, which they definitely are, and it's the same here. It's pretty much loading gets identically, but this is a lot easier to load than the Hugo Mauser that I have. And it's pretty easy to make shots with. This thing is really heavy. I mean, there's a lot going on with this. You hand it to someone and they're always just surprised by like how much this thing weighs. They just aren't ready for the weight of it. This one I was able to get through CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program. They don't have a whole lot of these come through anymore. And they say that they're in kind of rough condition, which this one really doesn't look to be. The metal's in pretty good shape. The stock is really nice. The serial shows that it was a 1918 production. The barrel shows that it was the 1919, so it has been rebarreled at some point. It is a Remington production with a, I think a Winchester bolt from what I can tell. So it's definitely been, I kind of pieced together from other stuff at some point, but CMP does, you know, headspace and test fire these things. So that is one reason I went for getting it from there, even though I wasn't sure the physical condition of the rifle on this one. But this is a nice rifle, and I think it's a good addition to anyone's collection. If you found this video useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and a like. You can go down into the comment section and leave any thoughts you have down there. And if you're interested, you can also subscribe to my channel and click the little bell notification to make sure that you catch all the videos that I post so you don't miss anything. I'm Jeremy with Poindexter G, and we'll see you next time.